Hello and welcome to We Women Want. This is our weekly show where we explore issues concerning women. We try and find a support group for those who need help. We celebrate the winners and we talk about almost everything actually. It's not just for women, even men do watch that show and enjoy it. But today we're taking a look at the role of the working woman. Now more and more women are joining the workforce. They're becoming financially independent. In fact, when I did a program with some young girls, postgraduates, they said the first priority was actually work, career, then a child and then marriage. So how is that attitude percolating to the family units, to relationships, to the office? That is something I'm going to be discussing with three women who are feisty, they're smart, articulate, and all of them are, they're living life on their own terms. So I really welcome this panel. I have with me Namita Kohli. She's the principal designer at Visma Atria Interiors, and in fact, I would like to call it interior architect, not so much an interior designer. Chanda Narang, CEO at Fraser and Hawes. And Shifalika Panda, she's a trustee and CEO at Bansidhar and Ela Panda Foundation. She also handles the CSR arm of the IMFA, which is India's leading ferroalloys producer. And she was the chair at the G20 Empowerment Mentorship Working Group. Shifalika and Chanda, Namita, welcome to this conversation. Thank you. Hey, Shifalika, this came out of a conversation you and I had a while back. The role of the working woman is, how do you see it being redefined? What is the extra that women bring to the workforce?
So Priya, men and women are different. They're different both in terms of their genes and their upbringing. Before I define what women bring to the workforce, I thought it's important to point out that the upbringing has a significant role in how that women reach the workforce. I come from a family where I saw both my parents work. I was told that education is important if you needed to work. The point being, it was not thrust upon me that I must work. So it was a choice. When you come into the workforce, you certainly bring, as a woman, the different perspective, the unique way that you think. And it's very, very important in our country that we embrace this talent pool if we are to achieve our full potential. Because women are better innovators, they are better marketing strategists, they are more creative. So they certainly bring that to the table, which is what I think everyone should value in the workplace.
Okay, I also want you to tell me your story. That is something that everybody would identify with. In fact, I should have begun with that question first. Is what exactly do you do, and is it a choice that you took to join the workforce, or because I'm sure you had an option not to work also.
Right, as I pointed out that I was told that you should have your education if you needed to work. So it was a choice, but I saw my mother working from, when I was a baby. It was something she balanced really well. Work-life balance was really good. And obviously, I was inspired by that. As a girl child needs that nurturing environment, she needs that nurturing environment twice. She needs it again when she gets married, because what is the outlook of the family that she marries into? And I was fortunate enough again that I married into a family which was all about working women, and they completely supported my idea of working. Initially, after I finished my management degree, I decided to set up an interiors firm. And I did that for about 15 years. But somewhere down that entrepreneurial venture, I went through certain experiences in life, which then drove me to my calling to get into the development sector. And that's where I am today, working in Odisha in 5 verticals. And I feel that, why not leverage the privilege we have to empower other women to also have their voice in the household and in decision making.
Well said. Namita, your take on the extra that working women bring. But first, a bit about your story, so we can, the audience also knows what you do.
So I actually went through school and college thinking, very much like you, I had an education, but I went through school and college thinking that life was going to be la la land, and that's what I was going to do when I grew up. And I was a basketballer, and that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. It came to end of college, and then one thing led to another, and I started working. And I worked first with my dad for a couple of years, and then I got married. And like you said, you need to have a nurturing environment in both places. And I have to say I got great support from my in-laws' side and from my husband. And that kind of catapulted me forward. It started off with baby steps. And, today we have a company where we have a couple of verticals. We have a design vertical, we do our own manufacture, and we have a vertical where we represent about 19 European brands. So the point coming here is that None of that would have been possible had one, there not been that support. However, what women bring to or at least I can tell you in my kind of industry, I find a lot of women, like you said, carry a huge amount of talent, which is untapped talent. A lot of women have been told that you need to be housewives, and that's what girls are really brought up to think that that's what they need to do. And I think today there is not only a space for people in the so-called industries, like it could be like a doctor or a lawyer or, but there are so many other things that are happening. I mean, with Instagram, the way it's blowing up, there are people that are influencers. So there's a lot happening. I think it's a question of pushing our girls forward and, letting them feel that they can go out and achieve too.
So now is actually the right time for those who want to be independent. We have the mindset, we have the opportunities. But Chanda, when you started out, it was, at that time, was it okay for women to start their own businesses or was that something frowned upon? And, what made you actually want to join the workforce?
I think where women are concerned, first and foremost, we have to understand that we are half of the world's population. So आप हमें नजरअंदाज नहीं कर सकते. And society has developed for hundreds and hundreds of years to convince women to be seen and not heard, and in some places not even seen.
Correct. Well said.
So you play the supportive role, but you be a very invisible supportive role, and we'll call you when we need you. Right? We've all gone through that. Women have. Unfortunately, men fall in the same trap because they've been conditioned likewise. So even if you have men who want a stronger, more supportive, feminine side to them, they will not act upon it because they've been conditioned to, again, see women as more invisible. Nazarandaz. So unless we actually turn around and look at the world and say Mother Earth is full of women, half the population is full of women, we are not going to have an equal world. So we are never going to have an equal playing field in our workforce if women aren't truly represented with everything that they bring. Where I am concerned, fortunately, I come from a house where there were equal opportunities. My father was very insistent that I get the same opportunities as my brother. But we live in a society where there is so much pressure on women to conform, to be a girl. What does it mean to be a girl? Can I please ask anybody? We all know what it means to be a girl because we've been told what it means to be a girl. So a boy is told what a boy should be, a girl is told what a girl should be. But stop it. Stop it. First of all, a child is born, she doesn't know whether she's a girl or a boy. He doesn't know whether he's a girl or a boy. Why are you conditioning our children? Let them be naturally and organically what they are, as life and nature has made them to be. And then the world will get actually the true talent, the grace, the confidence from men and women to be the way nature's made them. Whether they be homemakers, they should have the choice. Whether they should go out and work, it's their choice.
So it should not be a gender stereotype. The boy goes to work and the woman stays at home. But now, Shifalika, we are living in this world of binaries also. So it's that change that Chanda spoke about is actually happening on ground also.
I think it's still happening very slowly. I mean, to give you a very simple example, I have two daughters. And when my daughter at the age of 6 was playing soccer, I observed that it was a mixed pool of boys and girls. And the boys wouldn't pass the ball to her because they just assumed at the age of 6 that she's a girl, she can't control the ball.
They haven't met you.
So, I mean, I think it's very, very important to condition them, as Chanda said. And, it's first give them equal opportunity and then condition them. Condition the girls with self-belief. Condition the boys that the girls are equal, you need to respect them, and then it's a level playing field.
Correct.
That's when we are going to talk about the world changing.
So I think the conditioning has to come
at a very young age.
Our classroom, the schoolroom, and our parents.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. The only difference that I would like to point out here is that there is, no matter how much we fight it, and I know you girls, and I know that you all come from very strong backgrounds, and you yourselves are very strong women. But physically, on the playing field, a boy is physically, a man is physically stronger than a woman. However, that does not mean that a woman does not have the talent, brain over brawn. So it's not necessary that if they had passed the ball to her, she may have had a tackling technique that they may not even know about. So it's not, we should not, we don't have to only look at brute force. We have to look at what the brain is behind there also.
Where do we need brute force now? I mean, all the techies are sitting there, with the heads inside and the necks inside the computer. Where is the brute force? There is no brute force now. There is simply, you make sure that your girl and your boy are physically fit. That's something an absolute must. From a small age, make them fit, make them play games, make them strong. Thereafter, understand that women are capable of doing huge amounts of work, carrying huge amounts of weight, as we know. When we need it, we do it. I mean, entire imarats have been built by women carrying concrete stones. So it's not brute anymore. Make the world safer for women. She works out in the field. You do a lot of work. Make the world safer for women so they don't have to deal with fear every day.
So educate the boys. But it's so funny, I just saw an announcement
Or
made
pull
by
up your police.
well, that's a whole new story. But the Punjab Chief Minister, Bhagwat Mann, he just announced that the fact that he's going to become a father. And on stage he's saying, and my wife and I, we haven't found out the sex of the child. That is wrong in so many ways. You're not allowed to. And B, what does that imply? So statements like this are still happening by our politicians, by those who are supposedly governing us. We are still dealing with that mindset, aren't we? You work a lot in rural areas.
Yes, I work a lot in rural areas, and that's the point that I mentioned earlier, that they just do not have a voice in the decision making. And the reason they don't have that is because they are not financially independent.
Yes, that's
the
the
reason.
crux.
So again, we go back. Why are they not financially independent? Because they don't get equal opportunity. So therefore, it's very important for organizations like mine, where we work at the grassroots, we enable these women with life skills, with livelihood skills, so that they are able to integrate in society. And when that happens, is when they sort of are able to find that voice and assert it. That's when real change happens.
Yeah, but it's not just rural. I think
Everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Interestingly, a woman can raise her child, 5 children, without a man, earn, and with society's help, keep her family together, and marry the children, do her own thing. A man can't. A man will be a widow or a divorcee. You can be rest assured he'll marry again or find a woman to keep his life together and his work together. So if we were talking about women being midwives, midwives is a great name because women are midwives. We nurture every creative project. From home, child, work, social development, you name it. We are the ultimate midwives. Men can go straight ahead, which is great. They can go ahead like an arrow. But they will still need a support system of the midwife to bring it all into fruition. So appreciate
But that is where I feel that it is important. I have a son and a daughter. And I have always told my kids, both my kids, there's nothing that one can do that the other cannot do. So if my daughter can cry, my son can cry. I think there's nothing wrong with it. We need to explain, we need to tell them that there is no distinction between emotion, right? What I feel, what happens to women is because we tend to be we are the birth-giving parent, right? So because of that, you have to nurture the baby, you have to feed the baby, all those things come on to you. A lot of women may not be feeding the baby themselves. They may be on a top feed or something. I want to understand, why is it that there is a maternity leave for a woman? Why we should also be able to give a maternity leave to the man? So it should be, if there are 24 hours in the day, 12 hours a day if the woman is looking after the babies, 12 hours a day the man should be able to look after the baby. He should get as many maternity benefits as the woman gets. Or it should be treated equally. The minute we, the minute we start treating all that equally and start putting that into place. If you look out today and if you tell a guy, even today, if you tell somebody, oh, please go change the baby's diaper, and there are 5 people sitting around, the guy would look at his wife to say, really? You asked me to do that? However, the woman has to do it. Why is it that that mindset is such a big deal? And this happens at an educated level where, kids have studied, they've been through college, they've been through school, they've had so much exposure. So imagine what's happening, at the places where you are battling this, where it is a very male-dominated thing and the women really don't have a voice. So how difficult it is there. And the education should start there. We have to start explaining to them and, telling them that it's a shared thing. If you're going to have a baby, you have to share it. 30 years ago, when my daughter was born, I remember my husband got up to change her diaper and his friends laughed at him. Today, that is still happening at a very large level. That needs to change. If it's taken 30 years to get to this stage, we still need at least another 50 years to be able to reach a stage where we'll be equal. That needs to be expedited.
Yeah, and the change perhaps will come if we also, apart from the mindset is like Namita said, share the maternity leave, let the men also feel an equal stakeholder. He'll then step up to the job, I guess. But we're going to take a quick break and come back and continue the conversation. Hello and welcome to We Women Want. We're here discussing the role of women. Has that changed since women have become part of the workforce? Has what is the extra that they bring to the workforce? And by Shivalika, by tilting the field in favor of the women, have we tilted it away from the men? Like for instance, why not give maternity leave to men?
But there are many organizations, Priya, now that have started doing it. I mean, if you look at the larger organizations, they are talking about, creches in the offices, they are talking about paternal leave, they are talking about these things. So I think in that sense, these organizations are leading the change. And that's really welcoming because there is the younger generation where the man is now wanting to spend as much time with the baby. It may not be reality in India to a large extent, but it is certainly across the globe.
Correct. No, in fact, there's a friend of mine whose husband woke her up in the morning with a tray, a bed tea and a rose. And she called me up and she said, my husband's a snag. So I said, what is a snag? She's a sensitive new age guy. So, do we need more snags now, Chanda?
Lovely.
More snags, no? I think we need more sensitivity overall. And we come back to that because instead of going to gender polarity, we talk about polarity in any phase of human existence should be softened. Should be softened. So when we make very definite statements that so and so is like this and so and so like this, a man is like this, a woman's like this, since this is a gender talk, or a child is like this, or I'm like this, soften it all. When you soften your speech and you soften your belief, then in general our language. If you soften your language and not make it so definite, then it percolates to the entire society.
I was just going to say that, it's about the self-belief. It's about what we believe. And we also have to break away from the stereotypes for the men.
Yes.
It's not just that women are viewed in a certain way. We also have somewhere decided the man will not take care of the baby. We need to do anything. Let's take a step back. Let's also give them that choice.
Yeah.
That's also important. And the second being self-belief, as you said, we need to raise our girls with the self-belief that it's your choice. You decide to put the narrative out there and see the response you get.
Yeah, so should we just pause and, think of what you said and, let's speak from the men's side also. Why should they be condemned to wear blues and blacks and not light pinks or greens? Or why should they not have the luxury of saying, okay, I'll be the house husband, you go work.
Correct.
Some men want to be...
So actually, interestingly, I don't know if you know this, but I think maybe in the early 1900s, the colors for baby girls was actually blue and the colors for baby boys was actually pink. It got reversed because of some reason which I can't remember now, but it was actually the opposite. We see a baby, we already in our minds have decided it's a baby boy, so you'll take the baby boy and you'll bounce the baby boy like this. If there's a baby girl, you'll say, oh, my little baby, and you'll just swing her like this. We are conditioned like that. It's our conditioning that we need to change. We need to make the change within ourselves first.
No, and I also believe it's very important that we started this conversation saying that we had enabling environments not once but twice.
Yeah.
So, we should give credit to the men from those families
Absolutely.
where you were not questioned about your choices.
Correct.
So we must acknowledge that, because if that is not acknowledged, there won't be more examples of that nature.
That's true. In fact, and also words like if a girl is rough and tough, she's a tomboy. These are the things you're trying to, as you said, the stereotypes should not be hard silos, but it's more fluid. And to bring that into thing, how do you, whether it's in the classrooms or it's what you tell your children, it's also what children are learning at home, what they're seeing the fathers and the mothers do. The mothers staying up at night, making sure everybody eats their meal and eating last. That's what he's going to expect his wife to do at the end of the day also. So the change that is to happen, Chanda, where should, how do we talk about these stories? Do we show them more on movies? There's...
I think it's very important to bring in nurturing
And the culture.
into everybody, into the culture. So nurturing into our environment, into our homes, into our schools, wherever people are open to it, bring in culture and nurturing and sensitize everybody. You can sensitize everybody through love. What are all the gurus, teachers, masters and saints saying? They talk about love, 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 love. People laugh at them. But no, they're doing a huge service to people and society, because people who follow these gurus, teachers, if they're bona fide, are overall more sensitive. They are gender-wise a lot more equal. You see men and women becoming far more sensitive to everybody, the whole world, and other topics as well.
But even our mythologies and histories, and people, otherwise I'll have this people saying, no, it's not mythology, history, but the Ramayana.
Yes.
Sita is also the warrior queen, which we don't see that role of her heightened so much as we see that, the wife who stepped back for the husband, who followed him into Vanvas. So we need to typify.
It's what we want to see sometimes, isn't it?
Sometimes.
Right? I'll give you a
It's
wonderful...
what they want us to see sometimes.
That is also true. I want to give you a wonderful example. Recently, about a few months back on one of my panels that we do for development, the topic was on education.
Right.
And we had this young 17-year-old girl following STEM. And we had her on the panel. And the self-belief of this young girl was beyond amazing. She stood there in front of, sat there in front of 300 people, and she said, there are days when I think that I can't do something. And then I look at myself in the mirror and I say, hey, Manya, you can do it. And that's the self-belief that we need to get into these children, sensitize them at the school level, so that they're able to put up with all the challenges that are there.
So yeah, a lot of people have that inner strength, but a lot of people look up to influences. It could be a TV star, it could be an influencer, an Instagram influencer, it could be a cricketer. You look up to somebody to say that, what, he's my, if they can do it, then I can do it. So I think it's like there was a couple of years ago, there was this movement on coming out and saying that, listen, I've had emotional issues. And I want to address it, and I want to own it and say that I also have been through emotional trauma. Today, let's say if a Virat Kohli gets up and says, you know what, guys, I actually get up. If, let's say, there is an ad showing Virat Kohli changing a baby's diaper, 10 other guys are going to say, I can also do it. It's not unmanly to do it.
Yeah.
So I think while we need to do it ourselves, but a lot of us don't have the strength to get up and say, I am going to herald the change. Some people actually say, oh, if someone else can do it, then let me follow that. Then at least I won't be alienated. People are not going to say, oh my God, look at him, he's so stupid, or look at her, she's so stupid. And most of us have that insecurity. Yes. So I think if we see that coming also, so that possibly becomes a responsibility with some of the people who are up there.
So that's one good suggestion. Have icons that people look up to do
Yes. And in addition to that, I think also, to get women into the workspace, I think it's very important to address their challenges at the social level, at the family level, and the organizational level. Because if you don't do that, there is no way that we're going to get to that point of the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we're looking for in the workplace.
See, diversity, equity, inclusion, if I may say so, can only start and begin with love. L-O-V-E. It's a very simple word. It is something we are forgetting because we have defined success as money. We have defined success now as houses and everything material. Wealth, okay. Now, where does wealth, materialism, and love, where do they meet? Where do they meet? Women's greatest significance is that they are already full of love. there is such a nurturing instinct to all women that the greatest asset that the world can use today is not being put out there as our greatest equity. Humanity's greatest equity is love. Whether you love each other, whether you love your environment, whether you love animals, whether you love the rivers, what are you all doing? You're doing it out of love. Whatever work you're doing out of love. You do it out of passion and love. You raise your children out of passion and love. I'm looking after my mother because of passion and love. Everything, the source is love. Love will never misdirect you. If you're coming from the point of love, you can't go wrong.
But what happens when the woman goes off script, like a Sheena Vora or like that woman in Goa who just killed her son? You know, women, that is something that...
No, men do that also.
Men do that, but when women do it, it shocks us more. That's what I'm...
It does, I guess, because, you know, it's like Chanda was saying, you just expect a woman to be nurturing. And you don't expect the woman
is
to...
nurturing.
Yeah,
you don't
so
expect her, she is.
Yes, so when that happens, it obviously comes as more of a shock. Listen, if you actually go back and you think about it, what was man? If you go into Neolithic and Paleolithic man and you look at that, man was the hunter and the woman stayed back and she fed the babies and she, you know, she gathered the food and she put it together, right? So that kind of thing, inherently we do believe it. We do believe that the man can have an act of violence. However, a woman cannot be party to violence. So I think that's a very different, you know, I mean that does happen, but that's a very different side to it, and that could be it could be an imbalance of any sort. I mean, we don't treat those things.
No, I
also,
assume
so
it's an individual thing and not a generic.
Yeah.
Look at the pressure we are facing. Look at the pressure humanity is facing. I keep coming back to humanity because I don't like divisiveness. So I feel that men and women, all people, if they have the source as nurturing and love, you don't have to divide them into men, women, black, white, tribal and Brahman. No divisiveness needs to come into it, because if the source is coming out of a point of passion, love and nurturing, the world automatically starts becoming division free.
So everybody should
Inclusive.
display that empathy, play the role of a mentor, irrespective to a boy or a girl or a man or a woman, and then
Give the buzzword, like John Lennon, love.
Okay.
Well, okay, he got shot for it also. But what you're saying is absolutely correct. But celebrities, if you talk about love, you will be heard by so many more people.
So get them to talk, and also blur the boundaries. Don't have such, sharp silos, and embrace the good in both the man and the woman. On that note, thank you so much for this conversation, and thank you for watching the show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.